quite honestly, I don't know what to make of this. It's a USB chargeable lure. We took it out and gave it a little bit of a test. Didn't catch anything, but I wanted to just see really what you all thought of it and whether it's something you'd actually use. It's pretty expensive. It's 40 quid, and you use it under a float. I didn't lose it on the first trip out. That's at least something. You use it under a float, not like a traditional lure, so you're not retrieving it as such. And in effect, this little thing here sits under the float and acts like an injured bait fish. I'm probably about as cynical as most of you out there, really, and that's what it is. So second only really to a decent bait fish, but if you can't get hold of the bait fish, you might want to give it a go. So I'm guessing the best way to fish this is to thread the float up onto your braid via the fluorocarbon. I've got some fluorocarbon there. And I use the breakaway mini links, these lure clips. They're so good. Although the pack does come with these slightly different ones here. Go for the breakaway mini lure clips. They're pretty unbeatable, I think. So you've basically got the braid coming down. You're going to, there's obviously an eye on the end of that float. You're just going to use that and find the right depth. All depends on the sort of mark you're fishing. So you're going to put the float, I'll thread that up onto the braid part of the line. You don't have to use braid. I mean, this sort of setup could be used on a heavy rod setup as well. The main thing is that float needs to go along the line between two stop knots and a bead if you want to use that. You can vary the depth, of course, and then on the end of the braid always use the fluorocarbon. It's going to be a bit of sight fishing as well. So with the world's worst writing, I'm going to put braid there and then onto your fluoro. Just one way of doing it, really. The main thing is that float is at the right depth, because it's quite a heavy lure. That's probably about 40 grams, and then attach it to that first ring. Pretty basic setup, really, as long as that float slides up and down. There we go. I'm going to risk it. It is a bit weird casting out over rocks and boulders here. This is actually a harbour arm. It just feels really weird casting something that costs that amount of money. I know some of the lures we use are sort of upwards of 30 quid, maybe 35 as a max. But you've got a lot more control over. I just about see the float there. Just want to keep in good contact with it. And what it does, it sort of turns on and off. So it'll buzz for a bit. We'll have a look at it in a moment. Buzzes for a bit and does a little dive. And then you just got to keep a keen eye on that float as it dives under. You kind of know what it's doing, as opposed to a bit of live bait that might die on the hook or might have a long dive and get snagged. At least with this you sort of know what it's up to. So it's really a similar sort of feeling to fishing a live bait under a little float. I don't know if you can see the float there. On occasion that'll dip down underneath. That's because the lure's turning itself on. And then you can have a good indication by watching that float just to see if it's getting too close to the snags. I think spending that sort of money, you're going to be very cautious about how close to the obstructions you fish, and that might be to the detriment of the fishing, of course, knowing that a lot of these fish are going to be around those bigger boulders. As you can see here, the conditions aren't great, they're not very clear, but in my fish tank, after I'd scared the hell out of the goldfish, it's actually got a really good swimming action. It's a bit daft putting it in a fish tank, but you can see, so it'll wait and then move, then it waits It's on a timer and then off it goes. You catch the tail of it then, I reckon that's got quite a good little action to it. Goldfish starting to ignore it already. But whether a bass will see that as a bait fish, who knows. I think what I'm going to do, just watch that again. It is quite lifelike, I think. But then I'm not the one that's going to be hooked by it. It's got to impress the bass, isn't it? It's not ideal to film it in the tank because it will move and then get caught on something. But when it's actually out in the sea, I think it's not bad. See that movement there? Reasonably fish-like. And I think the actual finish on it is pretty good. I mean, it's obviously aimed at a US market, but that could pass as a bass or a mullet or something like that. I'd say it comes with those pretty rubbish clips. I'm not going to use those, but if you do order one, it comes with those. And then you just charge it with a USB charger. So you could take a power pack down to the seafront with you, and you can see this works with that impeller, pushes it forwards. It's got that green light as well. I'm not sure about that. I mean, obviously a green light isn't something that a normal fish has, is it? But maybe in murkier conditions, or maybe that'll even put the fish off. I'm definitely open-minded, and obviously what I'm doing here is making that connection between the two rings. So it's when you put it in the sea, it will turn itself on because obviously the water earths it. It lasts pretty well. I had it in the water for half an hour or so. So let us know what you think. I'm not trying to sell it to you. I don't care if you don't buy it. It's just something that's a little bit bizarre, really. And what with winter coming, I'm looking at new products and new fishing stuff for the new sort of season. Is it something you buy? Is it something you're laughing at? Is it something I've been laughing at a little bit? But I'd love to know if you've ever tried something like this, or whether you think it'll work. Just put in the comments whether you think it'll work or not. Although I may well hold you to it, because if I go out in the spring and summer and start catching bass with this sort of thing, we might all have to eat our words a bit. But by all means, say what you think about it in the comments. That'd be great to know.